Okay, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. I hope you're enjoying your holiday. I was going to say welcome back, but I then remember that only those of us in what is referred to as essential services, which includes broadcasters, will be here. Also throw into the mix panos, the fire brigade will be there. The police don't know anything about that. We've come to know about it. So you just keep on enjoying your holiday and let's see what we can bring to you this morning. Now, yeah, you would expect that we'd look at the whole Democracy Day celebration and happenings. And I might say that it's something of a relief to see that all the apprehensions, the incessant advisories, buy food for 2 weeks, go into the bank and get a substantial amount of money because things are likely to happen, the military will do that, the police will... Nah. It took Hakeem Adeodumosu, the Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, to actually come out with a statement saying, go about your business. The police have got this. Everybody can go about his business. But for all of that, those of us in Lagos will have observed that it was very, very, very quiet. Apparently, the social media campaign had really worked and people didn't want to risk anything. They were erring on the side of caution and not many people came out. Even the next day, you saw that, it was still very, very light. But so here we are today. Maybe people have got their nerve back up. But let me tell you my guest this morning. Mr. Femi Aino is an international lawyer and a politician as well as a senatorial aspirant. We've been at this for a while. Yes. Great to have you, Mr. Aino.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
And Mr. Curtis Adigwa is a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Thank you as well for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be joined by an old friend. These are old friends too. These are old friends too. So I might as well, shout out, as they say in rap, shout out to Yemi Makpadero, strategy and governance expert. He's on Zoom. Thank you very much, Yemi. Good morning.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Indeed. Great to have you. Okay, now, so many things have happened. We've heard from the president. We used to complain that we haven't heard from Mr. President. We wish Mr. President would speak with us. Now he's spoken. I don't even know if he's spoken too much because he started, the whole fiesta of talk started with Mr. President's Arise TV interview. Then there's the one that hasn't been as widely seen, but the NTA interview is also in there. And then, of course, there's the Democracy Day speech. When we talk now, I want to look at, both the Mr. President's utterances and how the day went. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the sentiments Mr. President had expressed start bleeding into each other because they were all done around the same time. And so you could probably take it as a composite statement, so to speak, from the President. Let me start with you, Femi. Give me your impressions of this 2021 Democracy Day and how it went, the fears, if not fears exactly, the apprehensions, and indeed the way they turned out to be.
Yes. At the end of the day, first of all, happy Democracy Day.
Okay.
At least we have something to celebrate.
Yes.
But I'm still concerned what happened on Saturday, whether it is apprehension or people are apprehensive or whatever, or they just can't be bothered. Because if you go out on that day, you will notice that most people just decided to stay indoor. And it's very disturbing. June 12th is supposed to be Freedom Day. That is the day you expect Nigerians to be on the street dancing and enjoying or praising the government for the benefits or dividends of democracy, as they normally put it. But for some reason, which I am yet to understand, it was as if they are still under corona lockdown, people peeping through the window, or they are just watching to see what will happen. But
because of the non-government actors that were warning people to stay off the streets,
yes,
stay at home.
But the non-government actors, are they the people we are supposed to believe, or the government? That is the issue. The government assures us that people should go out, continue with their normal business
but
activities.
That was after government might have noticed, and I'm really referring to Odumosu, CCP Odumosu.
Yes,
this was out after, when he would have seen that, why are the streets this light? he would have been told, and he would have said, come on, get about your business, whatever it is. But shops were locked, not just in Lagos,
yes,
in other cities. All
by
over
and large, and that is a testimony that people are apprehensive one way or the other.
Exactly.
And that is something which is very disturbing.
Okay.
Because that is a freedom day when we are supposed to go out and celebrate.
Okay, Curtis, the rather be safe than sorry attitude of the people. Your comments on that?
Well, I think it's about scaremongering. You know, when...
I like the word, scaremongering.
Yes, scaremongering when non-state actors try to convince themselves that they can actually take the place of government in the lives of fellow citizens. And then they spread these scaremongering stories out there about the vampire that is going to be on the street and consume you if you step out of the house. That's one reason why people didn't come out. The second reason was people were afraid of their shops being looted, given what happened during the NSAS protests. The government had assured people, don't worry, we'll be on the street to protect you and nothing will happen to you.
Yeah.
But on that very day, we couldn't find a lot of police people or security agents on the streets, and shops were looted, even your studio here was burnt down, and all kind of things happened. So people had to err on the side of caution and say, look, let's watch. And for some people who are extremely busy in the course of the week, it was time for them to stay at home and rest with their loved ones. So the plethora of reasons why the streets were empty, majorly because of the scaremongering.
Yeah. Yemi Makwadero, your thoughts on that whole notion of the non-state actors that got in on the act via closed social media networks and were advising each other to stay off the streets. Give me your thoughts, especially on the day itself that turned out to be something of an anticlimax. Oh dear. I
have a personal experience. I scheduled a meeting for June 12th. I belong to a group, and we scheduled a meeting for June 12th because it was going to be a holiday. But a week to the date, members said, come on, let's call off that meeting. So people try to err on the side of caution, like what is said. However, but for the fact that it was a Saturday, which is usually a very busy day in Lagos and in all parts of metropolitan Nigeria, it's not something of an anomaly to have people decide to stay back home, on a public holiday. Yes, Saturday was a weekend, it wasn't a public holiday. But I'm not sure we have a culture, Nigerians have a culture of going out to celebrate democracy day. I mean, if it's Independence Day, yes, you have students mobilized, but for Democracy Day, it's usually something celebrated by state actors. So, to the extent that there is no culture or a particular pattern that we are known for, to celebrate Democracy Day, I'm not too rough by the fact that people chose to stay back. And like Curtis said, if people reflect on what happened, the mob action that happened in October last year, in the throes of the NSAS protest, any business owner will, like they say in local parlance, borrow himself steps by ensuring that shops are closed, not because government is after them, but because they are afraid that government may not be in a position to protect them from looters, and vandals. So to that extent, I think that is just one aspect of the whole matter that, to me, is insignificant, but sends a message that people seem to have lost confidence in the ability of law enforcement.
Okay, swinging back to you, Femi, the president in his speech had said that, look, after enumerating a number of achievements of this administration, that he would be the very first to admit that there's a heck of a lot more work to be done. But that was without prejudice to, what he had itemized as achievements of his administration. Just the day before the speech, he had launched the one particular rail line. He had come into Lagos and gone on to Oyo State. So there's a lot of that on ground. But
the speech.
The president in that speech said that there was more to be done. And the other thing that sort of struck me was that he spoke about the indivisibility of one Nigeria.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, well, you see, there's one thing very important. I just want to quickly make a sub point. In as much as I agree with my other brothers that, look, maybe people are apprehensive because of what happened in October and what have you, and various reasons. But in the spirit of totality, it is very important to point out, maybe people are even asking themselves, what is there to celebrate? That's why they decided not to come on the street. But that is a side menu. Let's go to the main menu.
Yeah,
the main menu is the president's
let me quickly come on
I know
that.
you will disagree with me.
No, I'm not disagreeing,
please come.
but that idea that people might not have come out because they had decided there was nothing
Maybe
to
they are
celebrate.
asking.
They are I believe Nigerians are indefatigable. You know, when it comes to you dash them on a roof holiday, they will use it.
Yes, I appreciate.
Even if it is for kids to be playing, we don't get very much of that.
Yes.
Playing street soccer. People will go to events. People will just be up and about. So I just,
Yes, I
think you and I agree
I take your point.
that
But
if
Mr.
things were
Yori,
normal, that holiday could never have been wasted like that.
I take your point, but can I invite you to take my point?
Of course.
My point is that even if you dash them the holiday,
Yes.
doesn't mean they are not going to ask a question.
Of course.
That, look, what is there for me to celebrate?
Of course.
On a Freedom Day, on a Democracy Day.
Of
What
course.
democracy? If they don't see the dividends of democracy, why do you expect them to come out? But let me go to your main question about the president's
because
speech.
that is your opinion and perspective as well.
No, that reflects the opinion of some Nigerians,
Okay.
not only mine.
So you are not saying what
Yes.
is there to celebrate?
What I'm saying is that there will be some Nigerians who
are
are
you
asking
among?
the question.
Are you among?
You can read my lips, but there will be some Nigerians who are asking the question whether there is something to celebrate
Okay.
because they have not seen the dividends
Including
of
your good self.
democracy.
Including your
you
good
can
self.
read my lips,
Okay.
but let me go to the president's speech, which is your big
Okay.
question. If you read that speech, look, one must acknowledge the president for the fact that he acknowledged their challenges ahead. And one must acknowledge
As he
the
was
fact
acknowledging
that,
achievements too.
that he acknowledged his achievement. Nobody is saying they are not noticeable achievements. But these achievements are being overshadowed by what is going on in the country at present, some of which we are all aware of. But if you look at that speech, it is quite clear. This is a president who is looking at his watch that, look, time is going. Number one, by 2023, I will be out of office. And if you read that speech very well, you will know that the president is now thinking about his legacy. He talks about constitution, he talks about devolution, at the same time, he talks about restructuring. Now, that is very significant because that is what Nigerians have been clamoring for. And for the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to acknowledge that, one must commend him without playing opposition politics. But the point I'm making is this, and that remains the vital point. It is remarkable that the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, addressing the nation on a Democracy Day, is the same president as the head of state who, for one reason or the other, is yet to address the myriad of problems we have in Nigeria. And that is the fundamental issues which we cannot. And I must say this, and I must say it for the sake of emphasis. When people turn on their television, they didn't turn on their television to listen to the half-truth. They want the whole truth. And while we are praising at the same time, we must be able to criticize in equal measure. That's my take.
Thank you very much. But you missed out the fact that the president said that we are addressing all of those issues that you had itemized.
He's been saying that.
Yes. I just wanted you to say
Yes,
that.
I agree.
Did you have any sort of...
Well, first and foremost, I want my learned friend to understand that democracy is not an event.
Okay.
It is a destination. And in governance, you don't have one government that is capable of solving all problems. And that is why there is a seasonal exchange of the baton from one government to another. Ideally, it's expected that the new government will focus on new areas of challenges where you have incremental progress being made. But ours is a unique situation. unique in the sense that we have been contending with the same set of problems for decades. And so you have every administration that comes to power still talk about basic infrastructure that we should have moved on from, focusing on other things like science and technology, tapping into the smart economy and all that. We're still battling with rail lines, and you cannot blame the president for focusing on those things, because these are basic infrastructure that we didn't build when we should have built them. So in that speech, what the president did was, look, I know where we are. And that is remarkable. Remarkable because don't forget that this is the same president that they said is not the one in Nasser Rock. That the person we have there is Jubilee al-Sudan. Okay? And even those who were generous enough to him to accept the fact that he was President Buhari in Nasser Rock said he's not aware of the happenings around him. And then he gave 2 back-to-back interviews.
Yes.
Showed clearly that he knew what is happening around him. His mannerisms were on display for everybody to see that this is Buhari, okay? And then the man followed up that with another speech to the nation and said, look, I understand where we are. I know we have problems, but we are making progress. We are not making enough progress at the pace we wanted to make them because of the resources and the insecurity that we are facing. But don't be in doubt that Nigerians are indefatigable. We trust them. They are resistant to problems, and we are going to go ahead and accomplish our aims. Now, he didn't say, I'm going to solve all Nigerians' problems. If he did, then we don't need another government. He said, so he pointed out to specific issues that he was going to deal with. And I think we should commend him for what he has done. And we hope that the new government that will come after him will improve on what he has done and do better.
Okay. Yemi, this Nigerian parlance thing, it's not exactly Nigerian parlance, but when we talk about body language, there were those who were listening to the president, watching the president, watching his body language as they were listening to him. But what did you discern, Yemi, from all of that?
Well, let me say that I will be the first to admit that this presidency appears to have done incalculable damage to its image by its inability or incapacity to properly communicate to and with Nigerians, and leaving the airwaves, whether it's the social media or the conventional media, to opposition elements, and of course those who are dissatisfied, and maybe rightly so, with the government. However, the staccato of communication that took place in the last 1 week, if maintained, will actually, help the psyche of Nigerians. A lot of Nigerians are disillusioned because it does appear to them that perhaps the president is not there, is absent, he doesn't know what is going on. And one of the things that a leader needs to do in a time of crisis, one of the things a leader needs in crisis is visible. People must see you. People must see you, that you are there. Number 2 is for him to communicate. When you continue to communicate, you will be able to sift out those who are playing opposition for the sake of politics from those who are sincerely concerned about the trajectory that the country is heading. And I must say that, to be fair to the government, I kept hearing the president in the interview saying people should be fair to him, people should be fair to him. I feel for him in the sense that there is a lot of emphasis on the president's weaknesses. And a lot of people have extrapolated the weaknesses of the president to mean that there is an agenda by which he is spearheading, about a particular class or group of people. Now, the noise has actually been about who the president, apart from the case of insecurity, which even, you don't tell a blind man, that war has broken out, in the market. But so the case of insecurity is not something that anybody needs to regurgitate. We are in a permanent state of insecurity, and it is nationwide. And that is one thing I want people to note, that sectionalism or sectionalizing or compartmentalizing the problems we have in Nigeria along especially ethnic and religious lines will do no one no good. And so, going back to my thoughts, the focus has been on the issue of insecurity, and of course, the perceived, or may I say, perhaps some people will say it's not perceived, it's genuine concern about the sectional tendency of the president, nepotism. Let me use the word that is commonly used. But I have not seen people analyze the impact of government across regions, the impact of the federal government across regions in the area of, say, infrastructural development, in the area of budgetary allocation, in the area of, security and the rest of it. People seem to be concerned about who the president appoints to do what, rather than what is being done. And that means that there is actually a Buhari in the rest of us. Because what we just want to see, and I may be a minority in this, but when you have a situation like this on ground, it is only those who can have a clear mind, a clear head, that can fashion out solutions to problems. There is a lot of emotion in the air, and the government, the presidency especially, is not helping the matter. So what I'm saying in essence is that somebody should tell me, when we had Southern presidents in Nigeria since 1999, what quantum of infrastructural development has taken place or took place in the entire South? For the first time, you have a government, a president, I won't say a government, because for me, I believe that the president is practically alone in wanting to drive Nigeria to the right destination. Even his appointees don't seem to buy into that idea. They do a lot of maybe eye service and the rest of it. But again, people will hold the president responsible because he appointed them, and he must have trusted them before he appointed them. So you have a government starting, a 150-kilometer standard gauge rail line, right? Lagos, Kano, not starting from Kano, but starting from Lagos, and commission in 6 years, commissioning Lagos to Ibadan. And I have not heard people celebrate the Minister of Transport, for instance, for a remarkable job that he has done. So there's a lot that is going on that we need to really, we need to recalibrate, our thinking and our approach to looking at public policy and public issues in Nigeria.
Okay, Yemi. Now, Femi, coming back to you, Yemi started off by being concerned about the president's communication. Again, I'm sort of taking the three major outings all together. When a bunch of journalists from Arise, when they tried to ask him, when they asked him, they asked him that question about, look, him being a Fulani, and all this trouble we're having is from Fulani herdsmen, allegedly. People feel that because they are Fulani, you're just looking away or looking the other way. And you saw how the president addressed that particular issue. I think he sort of downplayed it. He said people were wrong if they thought like that. And in terms of a perceived imbalance in appointments all over the place in the country, he had said, let's call for some civil service or public service files, and where we'll see the actual, situation of things. So he seemed quite relaxed in all of that, and the way he was speaking, I don't know. Some would have been gladdened, and some would have been hurt. For instance, he spoke about IPOB, the banned organization, the proscribed organization. The president himself brought it up and referred to them as a dot in a circle. And there was a whole frenzy over that.
And we are all dot in a circle anyway.
So
in the country.
grab that dot in a circle business. I've seen some Igbo elder say that, you know, chill guys, you should feel complimented. You should be proud of being called a dot in a circle. But what's your thought about, I thought it was a terminology used
Some
in
of us
academic sciences.
Some people are sport.
Mathematics, chemistry, physics.
Mr. Yori, some people are a sport, not even a dot.
Yes.
A sport.
Okay.
In the country.
But in speaking about IPOB as a dot in a circle, they have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to come out. Tell me about that.
Well,
because I'm relating this back to communication.
Well, I think it's very, well, one must commend the president for the fact that at least he granted an interview to Arise TV, NTA, and whatever. And communication is very important. That's why I agree with you, Yemi's point to an extent, that the president or the presidency, they need to communicate more. You see, and the reason why I'm saying this is very important. If you don't communicate, that doubt will still be there. And people may not even know you're thinking. And by coming out, granting the interview, at least that has helped to erase one or two things in people's mind. And I must commend the president for that, without playing any opposition politics. But that being said...
That's the second time you said that this morning. That's the second time you used that expression.
Am I in opposition? Yes. I leave you to read my lips.
Again, read your lips.
Yes, keep reading. But the point I'm trying to... what is very important is this. You see, that is a speech, that democracy speech, let's just focus on that because we are discussing democracy here.
Yes.
It is something I read over and over again. And there are certain things there. Number one, there are some aspects which is unnecessarily pepper with hyperbole about their achievements and what have you. We didn't elect you not to achieve anyway. The reason why you are elected is because we want you to achieve. And at the end of the day, we practice what is called an indirect system of democracy, whereby we elect people, and those elected will come back to us and give accounts. That is the point, and that is what the president seems to be doing. But having said that, there is still one major issue which we still need to address, and that is the issue of alienation. You see, yes, it is very, very important we address that. And I must say this to you. You see, Nigeria is a country full of old wounds and new wounds. And these old wounds, there are still some people who have this thing at the back of their mind that, look, because of what happened in the past, certain people needs to be punished for as long as we have in Nigeria.
So perhaps you're saying the president might not have been as sensitive as he could have been in making certain points.
I'm glad.
Okay. Let me take Ada from Jos. Good morning. I'm coming over to you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ada in Jos.
Hello, Mr. Yori and your guest here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ada from Jos.
Good morning,
I
ma'am.
wish us a happy democracy.
Same to you.
I wish we are alive to celebrate it. Well, in fairness to Mr. President, he has done well, or he's still doing well in infrastructural development. But the high level of insecurity has retarded most of his achievements. Consequently, measures such as effective border security must be improved or formed to curb the proliferation of firearms coming to our border. But when I come to the speech, whether the Arise interview or the speech or the June job, I must tell you the speech lacks emotional intelligence. He referred to, I'm from Imo State, and I'm not a member of IPOB, but he referred to us as a dot in a circle, and then he also said that IPOB has properties all over, so that any Igbo person that has property, we are categorized as IPOB. That's not fair. Then he still made the threat that he will deal with them in the language they understand, although this time around he included the terrorist groups. He also told us that, talked about grazing routes. In one breath he will be talking about ranching, in another breath he will be talking about still grazing routes. He wants to retrieve those grazing routes and confiscate whatever. So that's what is imposing the headsmen.
Okay.
Then he also told us that extending development to...
now, what do you feel? Ada, forgive me for interrupting you. What do you feel about those things? Because everybody heard what he said.
I'm feeling bad. That's what I'm saying. That's
okay, it makes you feel bad.
It's not supposed to be so.
Okay.
That's emotional intelligence.
Okay.
It's really unfortunate. But let's not think about this country.
Okay then. Okay, let me complete the circle. Coming to you, Curtis, before we go on a break. Give me your thoughts, because you were voicing some of them. And you might want to include this whole dot in a circle, matter. And by the way, I think the president referred to this whole matter about, there are Igbos all over the country, assets all over the country. So what were they thinking?
Sometimes...
That was how the president put it.
First and foremost, we must admit that the president is not an Obama-like or Clinton kind of speaker. And for many of us as human beings, once or twice or so many other times, we have said things that didn't come out the way we wanted to say them. And that's not holding brief for the president.
But it sounds a bit like it.
But as a person, I understood the point he was trying to make.
Okay.
Whether it was emotionally intelligent or it wasn't, I didn't perceive it that way. And for those who are offended, they have the right to be offended. It is their call. But having said that, I think there were things that the president said that factually you cannot fault him. For instance, if a governor said the reasons why herdsmen have a free reign in the country is because one of them is the president of the country, that's uncharitable to Mr. President. And I'll tell you why. In 2014 was the height of herdsmen activities in my own state, where a lot of my people in Apa and Agatu were murdered. Buhari was not the president then, so he couldn't have emboldened a group that were rampaging, all right? And the second point he made is that, look, indirectly by saying, look, there is no governor in this country that I have stopped from arresting herdsmen and punishing them. Because instead of them going about doing their job, and that's the truth of the matter, I want to know the governor that said, I arrested criminal herdsmen in my state for going into people's farm or for attacking people. And I got a call from Mr. President, or I got a directive from the Inspector General of Police that said, look, these are untouchable people. You cannot deal with them. So leave them, let them continue with their art. I think he was right. It's an inconvenient truth, but it's nevertheless the truth.
Okay, so, I've got to take a break now. I beg your pardon. I've got to take a break now. But stay with us, please. We'll be right back and we'll include your calls. Okay, welcome back. We're on the home stretch now. Guests are Mr. Femi Aino, Mr. Curtis Adigba, and Mr. Yemi Makwadunu, who is remote, as they say, on Zoom. Now, Yemi, the whole question, I think, is an important one. It's also a sensitive one, of people feeling a sense of alienation. It doesn't matter. If it's not one people, it'll be another. People are saying that we're alienated. Even me, myself, here, I'm feeling alienated,
and you shouldn't, because you're oppressing me.
There you go.
It's when the big three, Igbos, Hausa, and Yoruba disagree,
when they disagree,
that you pretend to be on my side.
So
I'm a minority.
So address that issue. How do you see this statement, this claim of alienation, and that I'm not getting a good enough deal in this committee we call Nigeria, simply because I am X, Y, or Z?
Well, I think it's a justifiable feeling, but whether it is real or perceived is another thing. One thing we must note is that when you look at it from the political element of it, the president's political party is a minority party in the Southeast. And so the people he appoints the people whom he has extended government patronage to individually are basically not the mainstream Southeasterners. So they are not seen as representing their interests to a large extent. And so, but again, the situation is worsened by the president's inability to reach out, the president's inability to quench, the fire, and he seems to be unconcerned. That is the picture that people see.
Okay.
But I interrogated this issue, and I said, where did the president and the Igbo as a group fall out? The president contested election for the presidency of this country for the first time in 2003 and then in 2007.
He went with Igbos.
On both occasions, he had Southeasterners, Igbo people, as his running mates. And so I asked myself, where did the divide come from?
Okay, excuse me, please hear me. Forgive me, I got to interrupt you. I beg your pardon for doing so. But Mazi Okoroafo has come on the line from Arochukwu. Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, our guest in the studio, my brother on the sky.
Yes.
You see, the issue is the president has spoken, yes. Now, he said the constitution prerogative of the National Assembly. Now, the question is this: why must the National Assembly say distribute, go there, go to geopolitical? Is it not money wasted? So the National Assembly should look into the speech and see what they can do so that we can get a constitution before 2023. Now, one will say that let's keep the constitution aside, but the situation, as long as the speech has gone and the people are still living on their own personal interest to come into the constitution, it's another problem which I would like the National Assembly to look at. But the question is democracy, whether we like it or not, democracy has come to stay. Now, there's what I want Nigeria to draw a record to. One, if you look at the roads built in the 70 during the military era, and the president, in short, with the current democracy of 22 years, we are now enjoying democracy. You see that the road does not last. Now, you ask yourself, Mr. Yuri, even let our guests explain to us, why is it that the roads built during the democratically elected government does not last, but those are built by the military last? Because there are some areas you go, when you see them moving all these old routes, like, why are they moving? Because what they are doing now is not so. People that say that they want to be this, they want to be this, they want to be that, they have to look into the contract of what we give to people, whether they are giving us the quality. That is why the democracy we have in Nigeria today, people will say it's shaking, some will say it's not shaking, but the thing is this: people who go into politics, they should take politics as a vocation, not as an occupation. The area they have that mentality, the better for us. But if you are going to politics as an occupation, I bet you, Mr. Yodi, whether we have democracy for 50 years or to come, it will still be England that the people are not getting the dividends of democracy. The area we do it, the better, because people are suffering. You are asking your responsible there. Why is it that the demonstration is that? Look, one of your guests told you, people sat down at church because it's a holiday. Why are you going to suffer yourself? You sit down with your family and relax and do that. Have a good fresh air in the environment and relax and refresh your body and your system, so that by this week now you look more fresh than it was before.
Okay. All right.
God bless us. Happy democracy to everybody in this country.
Indeed. Let me keep it, because I have to come here, then go there. And in relation to that, let me bring up something else, because there are so many things. The president put 3 outings together. The president, in one of them, had said that, look, there are people who are seriously misguided in thinking that democracy and having to operate under the ambits of democracy was going to hamper them from doing that which was needful, and was speaking in relation to the security situation.
Yes.
So, because the president himself has in the past talked about, democracy being what it is. I'm no more a military man. I have to conform to all the norms. But he had then said in the past week or so that the people will be seriously misguided to think that this thing that he has said is going to prevent them or hamper them from doing the needful. So, was there some sort of a statement of urgency there? Say, don't try me.
Well, I think what the president seems to be saying is to say that, look, don't undermine, I don't know the way we used to put it in those days, that the gentility of a tiger is this and that. And what the president seems to be saying is that, look, I know what to do, but I don't want to go on that route, and don't abuse the democracy which you are currently enjoying. And that's part of the speech actually resonates with me, because this is the president telling Nigerians that, look, I can back and bite, but don't abuse the democracy which you are enjoying and think because we are in a democracy, we cannot go after you or this. And if you look at another part of the speech, he said that, look, those behind what is happening in the country, they will soon be brought to justice. Well, that is a testimony that this president believes in the rule of law at the same time. But my major concern is this, and I identify with myself with one of your callers, that, look, care must be taken. What this government, there are some noticeable achievements. I must acknowledge that, because in the last 6 years, one of them just happened recently. We know that. But we have to be very careful to make sure that this issue of insecurity doesn't overshadow the achievement.
Okay.
And that is very important.
Mazi Ezeoku in Berger. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Yuri.
Good morning.
Yuri and two other gentlemen, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you very much for calling in.
Yes.
Quickly, please. Mazi Ezeoku.
Yes, Yuri. You know, we have problem in this country. The problem we have in this country is that some people have Nigeria in their mouth, but have another flag in their spirit, soul, and body, and in their heart. Any matter that they began to talk anything, they don't see anything good about this government, because they have another flag in their mouth, carrying Nigeria in the mouth. That is the problem we are facing in this country today. Okay. Mind you, that Nnamdi Kanu did not started that this agitation because of they started it about 2014. It with Ralph Wazirike, because of opportunity he hijacked it from Wazirike to achieve his purpose. So everything we are doing as Igbo now, speaking like I think we are Nigerians. We have another thing in the mouth, another flag in our mind. Only to have that our agitation to come through. Okay. So anybody that is telling you Buhari do that, he do this, because if Buhari is simply saying that Igbo people are everywhere, building anywhere they live, they take it as their home, building houses. Yeah. So he didn't see any reason. The same Igbos that take everywhere as their home will wake up and start agitating. You know that is what is simply
indeed.
Saying.
Thank you very much, Mazi. I appreciate your call, but because of time, thank you very much for calling in. You know, actually, Mazi took us in a different direction, but it's sort of welcome because he's commenting on a very important thing.
Yeah, and you know, the reality is there for all of us to see. Again, I have to make this point: the elites are playing on the intelligence of Nigerians. And it's all about personal.
And the president expressed his disappointment.
And it's all about personal benefits. Yes. Look at it this way. Can you show me any data that says that because a particular part of the country produced the president, he advanced economically better than other parts of the country? Look, the Nigerian Constitution distributes offices to particular areas. You have your state governor, you have your House of Rep, you have your senators, these are all government officials that are supposed to bring government closer to you. But the problem here is that you have government people referring to government. There was a senator on TV last week who kept talking about how the government was supposed to do this and that until he was reminded that, you are part of the same government.
Okay. So is that Mazi Ezeoku still with us? Oh, that's Yakub. Okay, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Yakub. Continue, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir. And then good morning to your guests in the studio.
And Mr. Yerima Padero, remote.
Mr. Yerima Padero is another side of the studio. Good morning, sir. Reverend Dominic mentioned something last week, that in his church and his environment in the Ikotu area, if I don't make a mistake, sometimes he was getting attacked because he supported Mr. President. Likewise, me too. I think he even mentioned my name that very particular day. Chief Jolly, I can tell you, it is truth. It is truth. But I'm not that in my mind. I don't have that in my mind that I'm not even that I supported this government. It is not because personal interest, because no government are giving me anything concerning this government. But We support this government because we expected good governance. Security, this government has done a lot of things that is good. But the issue is this: parties are given in that studio. Security, he has given a lot of information concerning this government. Ask the people that Mr. President appointed as information minister and then speak. Do you get what I'm trying to say, sir? Because parties are given in that studio, you can be able to mention 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of achievements of this Mr. President. But if you already today, you cannot point out one of the president spokesperson that will come out and telling you good about this government rather than telling you of gazetted. Please, if you have to have the lawyers in the studio. What is the gazetted that Mr. President mentioned in terms of grazing route? Because you cannot telling us that you will continue to graze when Mr. President also giving the cow. He has a righteous. And then was not telling us that the cow can move from one place to another. Yeah. The gazetted they are mentioned, I want to know what does that mean. You get it? So Mr. President has done a lot of it, including Lagos-Abeokuta road. It has been done. We have a president in this country, a Yoruba man as a president. Let that road untouched. But today I can tell you, this is the road I pass every day. The work is going there day by day. Security, they have done a lot of it, but the information minister have done lesser than this. Good Lord and God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much. You hear me? Let me just ask you, because we're talking about Democracy Day, actually. So let me just come back to whole democracy matter. We all clearly know it needs to be deepened. Just looking at the subject matter of democracy, the president, he said, in terms of the work he has to do as president, that he was elected to do, that is now his job, that there's a lot more that can be done. But about democracy itself, the principle of democracy, give me your attitude to what we find we have on our hands now. Is it sort of deepening? Is it very much the way it was when it was picked up? Or indeed, God forbid, is it sort of lessening? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's incontrovertible that democracy is deepening in this country. I mean, what the basic elements, of democracy is the freedom of the people, especially freedom of speech. As at the last count, in Lagos area alone, you have close to 20 radio stations, maybe 6, 7 television stations. So we have gone beyond a level now where you find government guarding press or guarding the people. Yes, once in a while you might have some extraneous reasons why certain persons' freedom needs to be curtailed. Okay. But generally speaking, all we need to do is cast our minds back 22, 25 years ago. So the platform for free expression is expanding by the day.
Let me see. Thank you very much. Let me see if I can get Mr. Ude in Enugu State. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead now, quickly, please.
All right. I like what is going on in your TV, but I just like to point something out. I live in the Southeast. I'm from the Southeast. And I am not a politician. My interest is what I expect from the government. When I travel from Enugu going to Onitsha, I'm traveling through a federal road. That road has been under construction since 1988. Every administration that comes, they do what they want to do. You see them working on it, and then they walk away. A road that is less than 55 kilometers. When I travel through that road, and I spend 4 hours moving from Enugu to Onitsha, and then I have aged parents that are traveling through the road, and you're asking yourself, what exactly does this government do for you? We're not talking about political appointments and all. These ones are for influential politicians who are looking for something. Then the government says to you that because you people gave him 5%, that you're going to get 5% of what, and you're saying it manifests. You find a lot of young people saying, this government is not for us.
Okay, I'm going to have to interrupt you there, Mr. Ode. I beg your pardon, but I think you've made the point. Thank you very much. You could only have expanded a bit more on it. But I take the point that you've made. In fact, we've all heard it, and that's your particular take on how well this particular government is doing, the difference between what have you actually done for us, we the base of the pyramid, the widest area, never mind the pinnacle where there's just a few people, but stay with people like Chief Femi, you know, is it because I've been calling him Femi all this while? So those are the people that are really enjoying. But jokes apart, yes, you are among them, but jokes apart, the question of democracy, you know, to sort of end back on that whole thing, as Yemi was saying, do you share his opinion that it's incontrovertible? We're making strides in our democratic journey.
Well, I think it's debatable whether we are progressing or retrogressing. But having said that, one thing that is clear, at least since 1999 to date,
yes,
we've had uninterrupted democracy. And that should
and there is freedom.
That should be
there is freedom of expression.
But on the flip side, whether we are enjoying the dividends of democracy, that is a question I cannot answer as we speak.
Okay, and I'm going to have to leave it there because we really are down to the wire, and so I'm operating in seconds now.
I will say just one thing. A caller who called in and said, I make a case better for the government than those who speak for the government. That's not true. I believe that those who are working
because they're very hard-working PR, communication people.
They're doing their job to the best of their ability.
Yes.
Now, coming to democracy, I think people must understand that there's this cultural relativism about democracy. Our people believe that it's not our thing. But that's not true. There is no democratic system that is problem-free. All you find is people trying to to do their best to make sure it works for the people. And when you say we are not moving forward in this government, I tend to laugh because we've not had 3 members of the State House of Assembly impeach a governor.
Yes.
We had that in this country. And people are forgetting these facts. You know, we've not had speakers bundled out of the assembly and all that. So we are making progress because progress is incremental.
Indeed.
And people must accept that.
Especially if it's in the area of democracy. It's nowhere near perfect, but as you said it's a destination.
It's not it's not an event.
It's a journey.
That's what
and ultimately destination. So I'm going to have to leave it here, but thank you very much for joining us out there. And also to thank Mr. Femi, in fact, that should be Chief Femi, Mr. Curtis Adigba, and, Chief Yemi Makbade.
Read the slips again.
Thank you very much, Yemi, for taking time for us this morning. And thank you, gentlemen, in the studio for sharing your perspectives. That's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.